Happy International Men's Day for Monday. I usually mutter, actually. Every day is International Men's Day. But this year, not so much. It's over a year since the start of the Me Too movement and 100 years since women got the vote. I'm not saying women have the power, because that's palpably untrue, but there is evidence men are feeling threatened when women have a prime seat at the table, and not entirely without reason. Jo Wallace, creative director of an ad agency called JWT, reportedly announced she wanted to obliterate its reputation for being full of privileged white men. It appears men who questioned what that meant for their careers were shown the door, and several are understood to be preparing discrimination claims. This worries me. If you attack pale, stale males for things they can't change, the backlash will build. Men in the crosshairs will cast themselves as victims of irrational, hysterical cat ladies. We will get nowhere. Don't let's enable white straight men to claim they are a persecuted minority too. I'm all for equality, but we have to look hard here and decide whether the ends justify the means.
Right, I always say this thing, right? I have not got enough time on this planet for the people I love, let alone the ones I don't, OK? Right. So when I look at this with my human head on, all right, I don't care about this day at all. It's just something... I was going to say. Wait, where's it going, Sherry? With this subject in particular, why are we even creating these days? It's gone bonkers. It's gone. 2018 has been the year where you've got to fit into some group or other, or you're going to be labelled with this, that, or the other,
identity
or you
politics.
can't say nothing without offending somebody.
Correct.
It's bonkers. And basically, the thing is, all these people that probably weren't minorities are now becoming minorities. If you beat someone with a stick hard enough, eventually it will begin to hurt, and then you'll be on the other side. It's just toing and froing, as far as I'm concerned. And to be fair, it's probably a little bit of one-upmanship. Well, you've got a ladies' day, we'll have a men's day. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I'll celebrate the days I want to celebrate, and you can celebrate the days you want to celebrate, and so long as everybody's fair,
so we're
and
allowed
they
to
live
have
and let live,
International Men's Day.
they live and let live, all right?
Right.
And everybody's happy, I'm happy.
Can I ask Madge? Another story that came up this week was that a bloke decided that his uni needed a men's officer. Several other unis have also decided they need men's officers. What's your take on that?
I saw that. Can I just quickly comment on this before?
Sure.
That, right? Because I think the reason this day is needed is because there are some difficulties that are unique that men face. And are currently, for reasons that relate to the patriarchy as well, to use feminist discourse, feel unable to speak about some of their problems. So if you look at the dire state of male suicide, that really does need to be addressed. If you look at, for example, 85% of homeless people are men, and if you look at, in particular, 92% of deaths at the workplace. Now, my father, who I recently posted about because of International Men's Day, worked all his life in the desert, in the Libyan desert, actually, as an engineer, and had his face blown off and all his teeth knocked out. And I remember him coming home one day as a child, and I literally didn't recognise him. It looked like an image from Freddy Krueger. His entire face was burnt off in an explosion. What men go through in the workplace, and that's just a mild example compared to 92% of deaths in the workplace are men. I think these are the sorts of issues, and then not to mention the underrepresentation of the white working class male in university, the overrepresentation of the white working class male in things like prison. And I just think these are important topics that we need to address, and if there's a day that helps us focus on that...
Why do we need a day for that, Maggie? I don't need a day for that.
Can we move away from...
I don't need a day for that.
But if it helps focus people...
Rachel, I 100% agree with you on this. As you know, I've been doing a lot of work in the diversity space recently, and I've written extensively in terms of how we need to communicate with straight white men, because there is a backlash. There is a resentment that's brewing, and what we have at the moment is people don't feel necessarily confident enough to speak out because of the way that you're sort of shouted down immediately, but those conversations are being had behind closed doors. And I think you're right. If we don't get this right, particularly with the men, and privilege, the experience of privileged white men is very different to the experience of white working class men. But if we don't get this right with the men that have the most agency in society, we are in big trouble, because they can completely put the kibosh on the equality movement. And this has to be collective. This has to be something that we do together. But can I just say in relation to JWT, sorry, I'll be quick. My friend is actually in charge of the whole group. And one of the problems that they had with this particular company was...
Gender gap, pay gap.
Yes, not
terrible.
just a gender pay gap, but also because of its underperformance in comparison to other WPP companies.
Okay.
So which is why diversity was something they wanted to address.
Which leads me neatly to say, I'll give you a comment from J. Walter Thompson, and I quote, "It's not appropriate for us to comment on individuals in an ongoing process. Any redundancies at J. Walter Thompson, London, are handled fairly, lawfully, and without any form of discrimination."
Before you, can I just also mention the lawyers here? There's a quote from the, and then we, of course, please then carry on after that. But it's appropriate because of that quote. "I cannot discuss the specifics of the reported dispute at JWT. Speaking generally, over the past 12 months or so, a new phenomenon has emerged. Ordinary people from a wide variety of employment are coming to me for advice as they are feeling targeted simply because they are white, heterosexual and male. This is happening across multiple sectors, including financial services, advertising, higher education and the public sector. It is resulting in a growing distrust of the diversity industry," which was June's point.
Yeah.
Nick.
It's real.
Can I just ask Nick something? This is very interesting because can we remember Brett Kavanaugh, you know, the Supreme Court Justice who was accused of assaulting somebody when he was a teenager?
I try not to remember
and then
him.
there was a senator who said, "I've been told to shut up, but because I'm a white male from Southern Carolina, that's exactly why I'm not going to shut up now." And people are now saying that Brett Kavanaugh was appointed because of, not despite of, the Me Too movement. There is a palpable backlash. Do you think that's true, Nick, or do you think that's rubbish? Do you think the white, pale, stale males have found...
I haven't really thought about it.
Ammo?
I want to pick up on Phil's point. What has a day ever achieved? And if this situation is as grave as this, and some of the figures that Majid quoted are really horrible as regards suicide, we should be thinking about this every day of every week of every month of every year. We shouldn't just think, oh, I tell you what, in the middle of November, let's all think about poor blokes who are committing suicide or sleeping rough on the streets. So I don't know what a day... What is point? Tell me a day.
No, but...
No, tell me a day.
International Women's Day.
Can I just...
Tell me what that's achieved.
Well, in terms of gender equality.
Can I say
awareness.
that the point of my debate was not to debate whether we need an International Men's Day.
It's about the backlash.
It's about whether, if we do not bring men, white, straight men, along with us in the conversation, they are going to gang up.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah, but I don't...
Everybody's got to be included.
I don't...
But we're making too much of a deal of it. By making a deal... That's why we're driving the
What makes you
debate.
think Phil and I aren't with you? What makes you think Phil and I aren't with you as white male pale
No,
males?
I'm not.
As a pale
You just said you've got to...
No, you're misunderstanding what she's saying.
No, I don't mean you three. I know you're on board the bus, but others will, like that senator from South Carolina. There will be a backlash.
There is a backlash already.
Let's hear about it.
Yeah, there's a backlash because what is happening, as you say, in terms of even the statement that you just read out, Majid, what is happening is there are a lot of people who now feel targeted in organisations because they are straight, white, middle-class men. No, but it's the optics. So therefore, if you're a group that feels that at the moment the worst thing you can be is that, even though in reality we know it's not the case.
So it is paranoid.
It's how you
agree,
feel. But it doesn't matter. If you feel that way, you feel that way.
We've got an interesting quote from Cindy Gallop, who says, as soon as you get equality, men feel oppressed or something. What does she say? It's the personal example of, as the saying goes, when you are used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. And there's also evidence to show that when women make up 30% of any organisation, men think they are overrun with women. Also, there's a Sky Data poll.
Of a sweeping statement.
No, but it's true. There's a Sky Data poll where men are asked whether they feel their concerns are important or not, and it's... Here it is. Do you think issues facing men are given more or less priority than issues facing women? Almost 80% of men think they are neglected and only 57% of women. So there is this sense of, unless you're actually, you know, paying homage and supporting and enabling these white men, they are going to come back at you.
So I think...
We failed to listen to Rachel at our peril. That is how we have a Trump.
I don't know. I've done pretty well through my life, I'm going to be honest.
Can we just have a quick look at the poster in case I miss this day?
Unfortunately, I have to say, from appreciating Rachel's commentary, we have to go to another type of appreciation because it's nearly that's nearly it for this week. But before we go, there is just time for this. We're always encouraged to be our own biggest fans, but having confidence in yourself isn't always easy. Well, Snoop Dogg has shown us this week that giving himself a pat on the back is not a bad thing. The US rapper gave himself some well-deserved thanks after he was honoured with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Get ready for a masterclass in self-love from the Snoop.
Quality.
I want to thank me. I want to thank me for believing in me. I want to thank me for doing all this hard work. I want to thank me for having no days off. I want to thank me for never quitting. I want to thank me for always being a giver and trying to give more than I receive. I want to thank me for trying to do more right than wrong. I want to thank me for just being me at all times.
So that's why Snoop Doggy Dogg is our straight talk of the week.
It's fantastic.
You've got to love this.
Do you think he's been listening to Carol Malone? Because it just suddenly swept over.
He's not here. We've got to stop it right there. That's all we've got time for this week. But if you want to join in the debate, just search for The Pledge on Facebook or Twitter. And thanks for watching.